All right. All right. Hello, everyone again. Good morning for someone and then good evening for other part of the world. I know that Kazakh International Science and Technology Station has more than 100 people joining across the globe. Thank you for your time, regardless of enjoying your, the Sunday evening you're joining here. And I'm sure you'll have lots of interesting information. So today we are going to have our guest all the way from Switzerland, Dr. Aliya Sarmanova. She's a clinical development lead in oncology and oncology biomarkers and digital health algorithms, liver and the gastrointestinal cancer at Roche Diagnostics in Europe, Switzerland. The whole August, in August, we'll have two speakers, including today's. Both of them related to medicine, related to research, and also closer to oncology spectrum. Before giving a speech to our guests, I would like to invite Jan, Vice President and the founder of this association, so that he can quickly go through the brief overview of the association. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohit, for your introduction. First of all, Mohit, thank you for joining and being a moderator today. Mohit joining from Hong Kong, Senior Research Fellow from Vision and Eye Center. And again, Aliya, thank you for joining. Thank you, everyone. We have almost 50 people registered for this event from more than 10 countries. And before starting, just briefly, what we're doing here. So our association, Kazakh International Science and Technology Association, has more than 150 members, including PhD, postdoc, professors, and industry members as well, almost doing it for 10 years, more than 10 years, from 30 countries. And as you can see, we have more than 30 countries and 28 professors, 31 postdocs, 52 doctoral researchers, and more than 20 people from industry, as Aliya today we have. And our team, board member, is our association governed by board of directors, comprising from following distinguished professionals. We have president, vice president, global affair lead, vice chain research, treasurer, and as well, we have a global ambassadors with the members over 30 countries with designated regional ambassadors around the world. So you can find where you're locating and connect with them and make a small community as well. And so our association, what we're trying to do here in QIST, so as a lot of you joined today, we have this global community of Kazakhstani scientists, including PhD, postdocs. So we want to build this professional network hub in order to support each other. Because I think it's time to time, it's very important, not only support Kazakhstan, it's also important, but support each other to really create next generation of scientific leaders. And our mission is how we want to do. We want to unite, we want to grow Kazakh scientific community, shared intellectual cultural values of academical excellence, scientific integrity, and of course, mentorship. And how we want to do this by empowering our members, by fostering career growth and meaningful connections through seminars, conferences, and global network opportunities. And as you know, we already have more than 50 candidates has been interviewed. This is a very prominent Kazakh researchers working worldwide in Canada, UK, US, Hong Kong, Japan. And this project ongoing is 100 Kazakh alum, where you can read these interviews on our website about these really inspiring stories of our Kazakhstani fellows. And what we're trying to do here in QIST, we organize guest of honor seminar series. We're inviting established scholars from diverse academic fields around the world, and they're sharing the stories, various academic systems. So we have Shuhrat Mutalipov from US, we have Dana Mabaeva from King's College London, and Kazuhiro Shimada. Other than that, we also organize guest of honor TECHTALK series, what we have today. So it's like mainly successful speakers that transitioned from academia to industry or launched their own startups. So on this session, mainly they share about their personal stories, lessons learned, and their real-world strategy in navigating this career shift is what's very important. Other than that, this is a panel discussion. We invite 3 to 4 distinguished speakers. Last year we feel obliged to create this kind of panel discuss about flood in Kazakhstan, invited foreign and local experts in order to share some strategical decision-making tools in order to help in this situation in Kazakhstan. And last one, we also invite representatives from international academic institutions and funding bodies in order to share opportunities how to secure research grants in Kazakhstan and also abroad. And if you're interested, you can go ahead, go to our YouTube channel and watch that. And over more than 10 years, we organized 40 plus events with attendance of 1,000 plus members. And we supported 9 members securing PhD, scholarship, fellowship opportunities. Yep. And we also in touch what's happening in Kazakhstan. So our association member, President Serik Mairmanov, he's also one of the member National Council for Science and Technology in Akort Palace. As you can see, we have other members as Murat Saparbayev, Janibek Alpyshev, and Serik Mairmanov. So we're pretty much knowing what's happening in Kazakhstan in terms of academic research development and trying to be in touch and help for Kazakhstan initiatives. As most of you may know, so now we have a partnership with Bolashak, and Bolashak approached to us in order to help them to find host labs for their local Kazakhstani scientists to have a research fellowship in war-leading research institutions, because some of them often have encountered difficulties in order to find these laboratories. So we took this call, and as you see, we have these professors, 28 professors working around the globe, postdocs, and there's a list of postdocs that potentially want to invite these Kazakhstani scientists. Dana Mumbayeva from King's College London, Marat Maralbekova from Paris, Nariman Shelikbay from Yale University. And if you're interested to join this initiative, we very much welcome, and I think it's very great initiative to really help Kazakhstani local scientists get this experience. And maybe if in your lab you need some hand to do some tasks, you can invite them. So you can see here, Yerbolat from UCL, we already did 1 interview with successful candidate, and hopefully she will get there for 1-year research fellowship. We also have Tidar from Chinese Academy of Science, which also have 2 candidates has been invited from his side. So again, if you're interested, please contact me or contact our association. You as a PhD or postdoc, you can discuss with your PI to have 1 Kazakhstani fellow. Of course, in terms of quality, we will do interview with candidate, and if you think this candidate is suitable, we can arrange and you can invite this candidate to your lab. I think it's very important to do this by developing Kazakhstani scientists as well. And for this month, today we have Aliya Sarmanova, and other than that, we have amazing events lined up for this month. So we have Science Lab the next week. So it's every Sunday of the month. We're trying to discuss very relevant topics within our community. So we will discuss about how to spot right PI and find the right lab for your PhD, because often we have this problem. And for guest of honor seminar series, academical talk, we will have Dorian Adilbay. I think most of you know him, very successful surgeon, currently in North Carolina, finally got his position. So please save the date. And last one, now we launch a new series of Kazakhstan University Transformation Series, where every month we invite the presidents or vice presidents of Kazakhstani universities in order to share what kind of opportunities in terms of career, research collaboration they have and they want to introduce to you. So please stay in touch. We will inform when it will be happening, but we approximate it will be in August, at the end of August. And yeah, recently we had amazing retreat in Bavarian Alps. So we had 16 members, PhDs, postdoc professors joined us, and from more than 5 countries. So if you're interested, please join us. We time to time have these retreats. Hopefully we will have in the winter and the next summer. And yeah, for those who are not member yet, please go to our website, fill out the form, and become a member. With that, you will have a lot of benefits, and can join our initiatives here and QIST. So, and last one, we currently, since we developing so quick and there's a lot of projects, I think it's very helpful. We're looking for sponsors. So if you know someone who is interested to support this kind of initiative, support us, what we're doing here in QIST, please spread this information to others. And with that, I want to thank you for your attention and don't want to take too much time. Please, Mohit will introduce today's amazing speaker, Aliya. Aliya joined us for today's TED Talk series. Very experienced speaker, so we are really glad to have Aliya today. So Mohit, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for this impressive presentation of the association. I see that it grows almost every day, and then the number of slides are getting bigger and bigger, which is great. Yeah, this is impressive. But what is more even impressive that it's today's guest. I quickly introduced earlier, but I have to read this. Just to give overview, just a short overview what we have about today's guest, Dr. Aliya Sarmanova. So she's a medical doctor as well as she's a philosophy doctor, double doctoral degree. She's a clinical researcher, author, and a science communicator. Her work bridges medicine, data science, public education with a mission to help doctors and patients to make sense of health information and the scientific research. Just a few highlights about her career and recent achievements. Over the 10 years of research experience in clinical epidemiology, real-world evidence, and population genetics, with academic training and research at the University of Nottingham and the University of Bristol, both in UK. She worked in both academia and industry, including in global health research, also at Roche Diagnostics. She published more than 30 peer-reviewed papers, but what is more impressive, she recently published a book we all witnessed in social media. I think I remember I'm a follower of today's guest, and she was having several trips to Kazakhstan cities, Astana, Almaty, when she was introducing the book, and people were lining up to get her signature. So it is really impressive. And then, yeah, for those who want to know more about our today's guest, you can go to her website, Aliya Sarmanova, and you can find more information about her and then the achievements of guests. And then I think she also offers some online courses on scientific writing and then maybe some consultations. So without further ado, I want to give a speech to today's guest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohit. Thank you very much, Kalimjan, for inviting me today. I'm very happy to be here and very honored, and I'm also very proud of the work you do in this association, bringing and connecting scientists from Kazakhstan, but also some guest scientists in these seminars, but also for all your events and activities. Thank you very much for what you do, and I'm happy to be part of it today. Today, I wanted to talk a bit more about my career journey as a clinical researcher. Yeah, as Mohit, you already said, I'm a medical doctor, but for the last 10 years, I was building my career in clinical research. So it means I don't work in the lab, and I don't work in clinical practice. And my research is mostly focused on patient journey, a bit closer already to the hospital than to the practice. This is, in brief, my career journey, what I will be talking about today. So I'm graduated from Medical University Astana. I did internal internal medicine. Then I worked as a physician and also as rheumatologist in City Hospital and Diagnostic Center. And then I did my PhD and a few postdocs before landing my job in Roche. And I often asked how to become a clinical researcher, how to do a career in clinical research. If I'm a medical doctor and I will do a PhD in the same university, will I land the same job? And this is, I always believe in people, and I always remember that sometimes we have more potential than even we realize. But at the same time, when someone asks me what book to read or which exactly course you did, which helped you in your job, I'm always lost, and I don't know what exactly to say, because as a journey, it's much more complex than just a PhD or just a course, a book, or a mentor. And I think this is something I often read, like especially on LinkedIn, there are many posts about that PhD, the title itself, don't land your job. And I think it's a lot of logic and a lot of thought behind it. And today I wanted to walk you across, through my path, through the steps. And as also many of your guests, you also asked to reflect on some turning points. At which points of my career there were really like a change. And I had at least two big changes, from practice to academia, from academia to industry. And today I wanted to reflect on these steps and also on some my insights, my aha moments, which I had during this time, because I think this will be much more useful for everyone here, because we all follow different journeys, and even with Kalemzhan and Mohit, we are coming from different areas of expertise and different areas of science. But I think the core principles are still applicable to many of us. Yeah. I also organize my talk. So on the right side, you see the skills which I'm developing during my career journey, because I think this will help to understand eventually what I do in Roche. So I started in Astana. I did my medical degree, and I did also 4 years of clinical practice in City Hospital, taking care of patients mostly with rheumatology and also gastrointestinal disorders. These were mostly the two main areas of expertise which we had in our internal medicine department. And I also did some outpatient work in evenings. I had also patients in diagnostic center. And these both works were alongside of my master degree, Master in Science in Astana University. And I think at that time it was one of the first years of master degree in Kazakhstan. We all didn't know where it leads. We didn't know like what exactly it is, because it was very different, something new. And we had a 2 years master with a lot of practice work. And for my master, I did a small case control study. And this wasn't my first study, because I also did some research during my bachelor degree. But this was kind of a first, more independent first study. And it was very small, like 50 people. But what I learned from there, from my time in hospital, it's first that it's important to follow your passion in university, because we all have different passions. And passion is important because it gives you focus for free. This is something we don't need to persuade ourselves, to motivate ourselves to do something. If we like something, if we're interested in something, we will be reading papers, we will be watching, YouTube videos, podcasts, we will try to gather as much information as possible. And this focus comes for free. You don't need to put too much effort into it. And then second, also find your why we're doing what we're doing. And for my master degree, I had my first studies in lupus. This is systemic lupus erythematosus. This is a rheumatic disease, quite severe condition. And I chose why because I had patients who were dying from this disease. And this was my focus for my research, for first years of my research, because I wanted to help these patients. Second, don't believe everything you're told, because during that time I was told quite a lot. Many of these wasn't true, especially when I wanted to publish a paper. At that time, it was a therapeutic archive, Therapeutic Archive. It was one of the prominent paper, journals in Russia. And someone told me that, normal doctors, usual doctors from the normal hospital, you cannot publish in these journals. which of course wasn't true. And I published in much better journals than Therapeutic Archive.
Oh,
Another advice was also to find your way and create time for your dreams. Because for me, it was a little bit more of a coincidence to get to the master degree. Because I wanted to continue my education in science. I wanted to do research, but I didn't have time as a doctor with 2 jobs. You don't have time for it. And when I told my supervisor that I wanted to do it, she said, okay, find your time. And then she left for vacation. And when it was exam time, no one just allowed me to leave the hospital to go to exam. And I was lucky that exam was on Sunday. That was
oh
the only
no.
way I could attend the exam. And this is the only way I could get into master, which helped me later. And I think it was a bit silly to rely on it, on chance or on a coincidence. And I think we really have to create time and create opportunities for ourselves, for what we want and for what we believe. Also find mentors. Mentors are always important. Almost no scientist, especially nowadays, is learning and doing everything alone. And I think this is important. We always need to find mentors and team. And also be brave, because today I brought a book. This is a book which, when I was a rheumatologist, this was my table book. I was reading it almost every day when caring for patients because it's for clinical examination in rheumatology. Of course, it wasn't a book, it was just a private copy, but it was on my table every day. And when I was deciding where to apply for PhD, I wrote to him. I wrote to the supervisor in Nottingham, and he accepted me. And this was he was my role model for quite a long time. So I think it's important to be brave and believe in yourself. So during my time in Nottingham University, so I did my PhD and also my first postdoc there. So Nottingham is a small city in the middle of England, and it's a very student city. It's have more, I think, more students than citizens. And what I did for my PhD, I was working on one big cohort. It was called Knee Pain and Related Health in the Community study. So it was a communal cohort, population-based, and we were recruiting just from the neighborhood. It was a very well designed, so they were sending more than 40,000 postal questionnaires, which is very popular in UK. You send a postal letter and then you get a reply, and this way we can recruit patients and ask them to come for assessment. And I, as a doctor, I was responsible for musculoskeletal ultrasound, and also I was reading some X-rays and also explaining the X-rays to patients, so they get more interested, so they understand what we do. And this way we were trying to get them to come back. So when we ask to come back a second time, they can come back because they're not only just kind of reusing them and use their data, but we also giving something back. We explaining what is happening with their knees and what is happening on the X-rays or ultrasound. And it was, for them, it was very interesting. Most of people could come back. And also about the why we chose osteoarthritis, because although patients were dying from lupus when I worked in hospital, but when I worked evenings in outpatient clinic, most of my patients were patients with osteoarthritis, patients with knee pain, and it's quite, it's not much that we can help them until they get to surgery. And of course, this is something we also still don't want to do. And at that time, when I started my PhD in 2014, there was a very big topic that osteoarthritis is not a degenerative disease. It's not a disease of age. So because we always believe that something like wrinkles happens on our face, but also something happens in some degeneration happens in our knees. But at that time, there was an opinion that it's inflammatory disease, and we need to treat it the same way we treat rheumatoid arthritis. And there were RCTs with methotrexate, and they were giving this quite harmful and quite serious medication to these people. And that's what we were trying to explore. Is it true that these people have so much inflammation, and this inflammation is primary, that we can treat it with such a harmful treatment? And during my PhD, we found out that not, it's still a degenerative disease. It's still quite a lot of happening with the brain. And this was one of my additional area of expertise. We work a lot on placebo and central brain joint axis. But eventually it was a negative study. So all our studies showed something which we knew before. But for me, it was a big learning of how cohort studies are working. I also work on quite many, and here I started adding more my subject matter expertise. So it was not only in red. In red, I wanted to highlight what got me to the job. And I think the main thing was being a medical doctor, and medical doctor to medical doctor. I think we always respect each other. And that my supervisor, when I asked him why he accepted me with not much research experience, just a doctor from Kazakhstan, and he said also that my resume was quite poorly written. It was quite weak. But when I asked him, why did you take me? And he said, oh, because you're a doctor and we want to have doctors who are passionate about research and it is important. And he was always saying that that language is not so important. This is something you can learn, but that people can think, this is important. And he said I could take, I don't know, 10 British students who have perfect English, but they don't have the same passion and they don't have maybe the same attitude for research and also medicine. And I think this is also important for many of us to remember, because this is our second language. Then, of course, rheumatology experience was important, and also a little bit of research experience was important. But then during my time, I also built more experience in ultrasound, in X-ray, and also in different areas of scientific expertise. I was trying to do as much as I can during my PhD, not only cohort, but also RCTs, systematic reviews. For my postdoc, I chose big data and also real-world evidence studies. So these are the studies which are done in UK primarily. They connect all the GP practices and collect the data, and this is a very big database. Of course, the academic writing, statistics, and teaching. But also what was important, I think, to highlight that we worked a lot across the universities. I had a very big collaboration with China, with Central South Chinese University. We went there visiting them. They visited us. We had a very close collaboration for years, and we still published together until this time. And they were trying to mimic our study. So we did a KPIC study. They did their own ICSO study based on our protocol. But of course, in China, everything is much bigger, much more in deep. They had more funding, and they did a very good job with that. So what I learned from my PhD, first about the PhD topic, it maybe took me, I don't know, 6 to 7 months just to choose the topic. And this is something my supervisors were very important. For them, it was very important that I choose the topic which I like. And they said, because if you like, this will be 4 best years of your life. If you don't like, it will be 4 years of prison for you. And I think during my time there and also afterwards, I saw that it's true. If you like your topic, these 4 years will be like very quick, and you don't even pay attention to all the difficulties and challenges, and it's always challenging. But if you don't like it, it's really hard. And I'm very glad that I did a topic which I liked, and I still remember my PhD as one of my best time in research. And also we built quite a good relationship with supervisors. So and so these are my 2 supervisors, one a medical doctor, one is a statistician, and they were working very closely, and we still, we're still friends with their families, with their wives and their children, and we still keep a very close connection of these people who I used to be working with. And my supervisor, he was always telling me, be proud of the work you've done. And this is something he reminded me all the time, because I'm quite introverted, maybe modest and shy. But this is something he kept telling me before every talk, every, I don't know, poster session conference, every public event, and also before my Viva, be proud of your work, what you've done. Because this is important, and I always also remind all the young scientists and early career researchers that it's important to be proud of your work. It helped me a lot. And we still understand that nothing is perfect. Our studies are not perfect. Maybe our evidence is not perfect. Maybe our thesis is not perfect. Nothing is perfect. And we acknowledge that there are limitations, and we can be objective We can be proud of the work and journey we've done, and at the same time acknowledge what didn't work, what could have been done better, and learn from it, and still experience both of these feelings at the same time, because this makes us, I don't know, wise adults and researchers. We can do both. And because sometimes I also see that a failure, and when something doesn't work, really affects the person, and he thinks that because the trial failed or his PhD maybe is going downwards, and this tells a lot about his as a researcher, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes we still quite a lot we can learn also from mistakes and failures. And he always also was saying, go sell yourself. And this is, I think, maybe you can interpret in different ways, but for everything we do, when we publish a paper, when we write a letter to the editor, when we go to the conference, we have to sell ourselves as a researchers, the work we've done, and we have to sell it well, because even the papers, they don't accept it just because you've written a good paper. You really need to present it well, make sure every key message is there, and make sure that you can translate the value of your work. And I think this was also an important lesson for me. Less is more. He was always saying is less is more, that we need to try to do sometimes not much, but with a bigger impact. And this is something also he was showing from his work. And here I cited this paper in Lancet, which we published. It was very simple when they were trying to. So we know that the gout is a rheumatic disease. This happens quite often, and treatment is very simple and very cheap. And still, only 40% of people receive the treatment. Because it's not so, because you need to educate the patient, because you need to titrate the dose, because you need to closely follow him up during the first 2 years. And that usually in GP practice, people won't do. And what he did, he trained nurses to do it. And he showed that in 2 years in a nurse group, the success rate was 96% compared to 40% of GP doctors. So nurses did better than GPs. It doesn't say much about that GPs are bad. No one says this, but GPs, the whole healthcare system works this way, that it's very difficult for GP to do this educational job, and patient education is important. And this is something like less is more. Sometimes you forget about how maybe some obvious things can actually bring impact to clinical practice and patients. And another lesson is do side projects. And this was my side project, which ended up in a paper in Lancet. And I also had many other side projects, which were not maybe so important and not related exactly to the topic of my PhD, but it gave me a lot of skills and connections and experience, which helped me later on. That's why I always encourage you to do side projects and do it well, because you don't know which of them actually help you later in your career. Then I did 2 postdocs in Bristol. First postdoc was in population genetics, and this was very mathematical science driven. In Bristol, they had also very big cohort, like Avon longitudinal study, which was more than like from children of 90s. So when we were doing this cohort, the children which were born in the 90s were already like in their 30s, and we were analyzing this data. And also they have hosting a lot of biobank as a first line receivers, because we all know that biobank is, everyone can apply and use data from biobank, but some of the departments can use this data first and they have embargo. So we had embargo on some genetic data, which we were, everyone would analyze it only after us. And it was very different from my experience in Nottingham, because in Nottingham, I've also worked with medical doctor and like a rheumatology department. But here I worked more in a data scientist department, and my supervisor, he was a pure mathematician, nothing to do with medicine, just data scientist and mathematician. And it was very, for me, interesting to see how they work. They have a completely different way of thinking. And at that time, I also was doing quite a lot of statistics and data analysis. And here with this supercomputer, which I was very proud to be working on. I think now it's not so interesting, because now you have so many, like even with Amazon Cloud and so many other solutions for high performance computing. But 10 years ago, the supercomputer in Bristol, I think, was 1 out of 3 in the world. That's why it was really interesting to work on it. And also Bristol Population Genetics, this integrative epidemiology unit, was a huge unit. I don't know, maybe 80 or 100 people working in one department. And they were one of the pioneers of the methods called Mendelian randomization, which is now used in many universities, but this is where it all started. And it was really interesting to see also how different departments, also different units are organized. That was also very different, very short time, only 8 months I was working there, but it also gave me quite a lot of experience. Again, more with here, I applied my medical expertise because these mathematicians, they were developing some formulas and packages for R to analyze the ancestry. And I, as a medical doctor, they needed me to see how it's applied to medical diseases. Because they have models, they have some hypotheses, but when they start randomly testing diseases, they get different answers because the underlying differences in disease. Because, for example, if we say that many diseases are gene-related, but for some diseases you have much more genetic component and much less social component, or like later on component. For example, for osteoporosis, it's quite a lot of determined by your genetics. But for example, for osteoarthritis, it's very different because quite a lot depends on your lifestyle, on your mental health, and also on other social attributes, like, I don't know, like your income or the place where you live. And also in Bristol, they had one of the studies about this, how genes affect the mental health. And this is something was from this group. So they were trying to find the genes related to intellect, to IQ. And they found some genes, of course. But when he looked as from the populational genetics point of view, from the ancestry point of view, he realized that these are not the traits related to IQ. It was the traits related to migration. So it wasn't like something related to your brain. It was more related to where your parents came from. And into Bristol, most parents, like it was in the 90s, so it was still not international migration, but within UK, that people who come from other regions, mostly they come for a good job. So they're specialists, they have high education, and of course their children also more likely to get to university and to be educated and to have high IQ just because their parents had it. But it wasn't a trait of IQ, it was a trait of that because these parents migrated. So it was a lot of interesting topics to study there. And there maybe was, I knew it before, but there it was really obvious that multidisciplinary teams where we combine expertise like medical and mathematics, medical data science, genetics, and we bring our strength to the team. These are very powerful. And these are, I think, the best research is happening when we can combine different expertise. Also, it's good to work in different teams and institutions. Also, like my first supervisors were quite old in their careers. They had very different view and very much less of the hands-on experience. So they couldn't teach me, I don't know, how to code in R or Python. But here, when I came, my supervisor was, I think, maybe 5 years older than me. So he was just one step ahead of me in the career. And it was a very different experience. With my supervisors in PhD, we had monthly meetings. And when I became a postdoc, we had one meeting every 6 months. Whereas here, we would have with him everyday meeting at the coffee machine. So he didn't want to have like a 1 monthly big meeting. He wanted to have everyday catch up. And it was different. And also it's good to see which works better for different tasks and also for different people. And it's also good. Also, networking is important because before I moved to Bristol, in one of the conferences, I met a professor from Bristol rheumatology unit. I already had an offer from genetics unit, but I came to talk to him. I just said, I just wanted to say hi, just wanted to introduce myself, and just wanted to tell that I'm coming to Bristol from Nottingham rheumatology unit, but in Bristol, I will be working in genetics. And he was very, very friendly. And as soon as I came to Bristol to study genetics, he was inviting me for every monthly meeting, me and my supervisor, my mathematician supervisor. He was inviting both of us and trying to do some collaboration. And then like 8 months for a postdoc is very short. From the first day, we were thinking what will be next. From the first day of my job, we were thinking with my supervisor, what will be the next job, how to help me to land the next job. And then a few months later, this professor from a rheumatology unit in Bristol, he called me and he said, oh, I have a position and I think you will be a good fit. Let me run you as an internal candidate. And that's why most of my time in my genetics, I also worked half in rheumatic diseases, because that's how we made this transition. And he gave me, I don't know, I can't remember, I think 4 years contract, which was very good. That's why networking is also important. Sometimes we just have to introduce ourselves, and even a short conversation can help in the next job. And then that's why I moved to rheumatology unit. And here, of course, the medical expertise was important, rheumatology, but most of my skills, they wanted to have this X-ray, because they were developing AI-based algorithm to diagnose these osteoarthritic features on a DEXA images from UK Biobank. And again, they had embargo, I think, for several years, so they could only solely use this data until everyone else will see it. And we were developing, so we were manually annotating the images, and then we were training AI algorithm to diagnose, to find some features which we can find, of course, but also to find some features which we cannot see in human eyes. Some of the density changes, some of the small things which we don't even see with human eyes, but the AI algorithm would have picked up. And it was also a collaboration between Manchester, Aberdeen, and Bristol. Again, a multidisciplinary team. Manchester were solely responsible for AI stuff, for all the machine learning and technical stuff. Aberdeen were very experienced in orthopedics and also imaging. They were mostly pure radiologists. And we from Bristol, we were like a team of medical doctors who could help with the more clinical expertise. And it was very also good experience. But then started the pandemic. I went on maternity leave from Bristol and we moved to Switzerland. We moved to Switzerland because of my husband's job. And here I realized that it's not so good to work remotely for UK university while living in Switzerland, because in Switzerland the salaries are different. And with UK salary, I even cannot afford the nursery. That's why I had to leave and stop my contract prematurely. And then someone found me on LinkedIn. But before that, also when I was working in Bristol in my last position, I had a lot of career reflections and I had to go to some career coaching. And in Bristol, they were giving this to us for free. And this was very good, I think, at that time, because when you had I had multiple changes in the area of research. And I always thought that everything is strategic. So for my postdoc, why I moved to the data science units is because I wanted to learn more about big cohorts. Why I started this more like a analysis based, because I thought I need more statistics experience. And when I moved to rheumatology unit, this again was giving me some skills which I thought I'm lacking. But the more you do this, and then you realize that you kind of stretch too far. And then I didn't know where is my focus, because I realized that I cannot compete with data scientists, because with their mathematical mind, they have completely different strengths. And even if I do a master in data science and maybe a PhD in data science, I still cannot compete with them. Also, maybe I cannot compete with epidemiologists who do public health epidemiology. And although my PhD was in musculoskeletal epidemiology, I'm still not an epidemiologist. And I cannot compete with them. And then I was trying to find where is my focus, where is my selling point, what I should focus more when I apply for next job. And here also I realized that, yeah, the career path, especially now, most often is not linear. And that's also fine. Sometimes we go one step further, sometimes we go one step back, because even my second postdoc in Bristol also was so how my professor said that you're overqualified. For these positions, they were looking even with you don't even need maybe a PhD, you just need more like a clinical and X-ray experience. But he was saying, okay, you're overqualified, but I still want to encourage you to apply. And we had a deal. So I told him, I'm okay with being overqualified, but then you give me secure time for fellowship application. Because I know how much in routines you can forget about your next goal. And we had a deal. He gave me time and also network. He was connecting me to other professors to find like a good mentor for fellowship. And we had this deal, and it's also sometimes important. Sometimes you can go to the position which maybe you're overqualified and it's like a step back in your career. But if it gives you more advantage for the next step, it's also worth it. And I think this is the whole idea of this non-linear and sometimes this squiggly career. And also I realized that we also can have different kind of a way of working. Some of us are very deep in one specific subject matter expertise. Some of us are generalists, so we have multiple expertise, but maybe not so deep. And some people are like T-shape, and I feel I'm more like T-shape. I still like that I have this broad experience, but then I still have my very deep experience in clinical research. And this is something I put maybe more weight on when I was applying for next position. That's why I would never position myself as a researcher. I always position myself as a medical doctor with clinical research experience. And I think this is, for me, it's important because if I'm just saying I'm a researcher, I compete with all the other researchers, with molecular biologists, with statisticians, with epidemiologists. But I have my own angle. And I think this also for everyone is important to understand where you are and what is your strength. I think we are a bit going over time, but I'll try to finish in like 6 minutes.
No problem.
Aliya,
Please take your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So now I'm in Roche. I found Roche, the recruiters found me on LinkedIn when I was on maternity leave. I was writing my book and I was recording video lessons for doctors from Kazakhstan, how to write papers. But then they found me on LinkedIn. It was very quick, maybe in 2 interviews, 4 weeks, they offered me a job. But here also it's important to remember, that's why I put all these skills, because in every position you can see that different skills play different roles. And here what they were looking for, of course, they were looking for medical expertise, because medical expertise is always important. In many fields of research, they need doctors to help them. They were more interested in gastrointestinal disorders because this was for gastric and liver cancer. They were very interested in real-world evidence because we know that pharma, so I work in diagnostics, but still in general in pharmaceutical industry, they have a lot of expertise in clinical trials and very well done clinical trials. But at that time, they needed experience in real-world evidence. And it's still the thing now because we all realize that we can do quite a lot with real-world evidence. It's quicker, it's cheaper, and it still can produce a good evidence if you know how to use it and how to overcome the limitations. And they still now they have the whole teams of real-world evidence in Roche. And this experience for them was important. And also was important ability to collaborate. And I think the collaboration with China played a big role because my first 2 projects, which I was assigned on, one was with real-world evidence, again in APAC, and second one was developing diagnostic tests for Chinese market. We have this manufacturing facility in China, which can also manufacture and develop now, half develop in Germany, half develop in China, and then sell it only to Chinese market. And this multicultural collaboration was very important. And the more I would work also with different countries and with different teams, the more I realized that it's very big asset that not everyone has. I think maybe as coming from Kazakhstan, yeah, we have some similarities with Europeans, right? We understand some of the European way of working, but I think we also have quite a good understanding of the Eastern mentality of, and in some ways also with my Chinese researchers, we can find many ways where we are actually also very close about, especially about hierarchy, about the respect to authorities, and some of the ways which sometimes is missed in other cultures is not so important. That's why for them it was very important to find someone who can work with teams in China and also with teams across the world. in US, in UK, in New Zealand, Australia, and like across the globe. And also to have this experience of multidisciplinary collaboration, because in industry, everything is multidisciplinary. We don't have teams of pure scientists. We don't have teams of pure researchers. Everything is together. When we have different people with different backgrounds coming to one team and do one project, one goal. And it's also important to understand how other people are thinking, how they're acting, and how to make best of everyone in a team. And yeah, in industry, I learned that in these 3 years since I've been with Roche, that science has many faces. And here, even in my team of clinical development, so we all, for example, in my team, we 10 people, we are all clinical development leads, but everyone is coming from different background. I'm a medical doctor. We have a biostatistician, we have some molecular biologists, we have people from life science. So we have people coming from different backgrounds, but we all do the same job as a clinical development lead. And also, it's in industry, you can see it even more than in academia, that also everyone has different, from their job, people are aiming to different directions. Some people go towards more people leadership, some people go back to more hard science, some people stay more in research, some people go to non-profit. And this is also, you see that this point in your career, people with the same position may want to go to different directions. What I also like in Roche, they stress quite a lot that everyone is a leader and everyone leads. And I think this is important. It's more about accountability, how you are accountable for your work, that it's not that someone will tell you or micromanage you or guide you along the way. Quite a lot of your work is you're leading. You are doing, if you don't know, you need to find where to find the information. You always account for your work. Yeah, I know that people say this is hard until it's easy, and sometimes we feel that in science we learn a bit more, and then it will become easy. But from my experience now, more than 10 years in research, I still don't feel that it's easy. It's still the more you learn, but then the next challenge and the next areas of expertise to develop come up. You always learn something. It never becomes too easy, and at least until now. In industry, it's important, quite a lot of knowledge is in-house. So it means like as a postdoc, for example, in academia, if you don't know how to, I don't know, do some survival analysis, you can Google it and you can learn. You can find some courses, you can find some videos on YouTube. You can now ask ChatGPT to teach you how to do analysis, how to write a paper. But in industry, and I think same is also in clinical practice, there's quite of knowledge still coming from between peers interaction, when doctor to doctor tells some I don't know, some nuances which help you. And same is in industry, quite a lot of knowledge you cannot just Google. You have to go and ask and talk to people. Also, I quite like in industry, at least in my company, corporate culture, that people are still collaborative, people are friendly. And I can also see that people are quite well developed in terms of the self-development. They understand a lot of concepts. And once I ask the boss of my boss, how it's possible that in our teams, the corporate culture is so good? Do you select people specifically that there's like have certain qualities that they interact with each other in such a high level that we don't have any, I don't know, some creepy and some people, strange people? And he was saying that he's always putting in interviews, he's looking not only for expertise, but always for attitude. Why people do what they do. And I think this is important for everyone to, when working, but also when coming to the next step of career, to think about your whys. Why are you doing this? Because this attitude changes quite a lot. And also don't forget about your LinkedIn profile, because this is how this job found me. Just one message on LinkedIn, and it was very quick. They asked me for my CV in 4 hours. They said, it's urgent, send us into your CV, you have 4 hours. And I just did it. Yeah, I wanted just to spend a few minutes on what I'm working on now. And I think the best way to show this is just to think of a diagnostic product. So I work with in oncology, in liver cancer, and I work on developing an oncomarkers. Same from blood oncomarkers, which we can just go to lab and to a link and give the test. Also for digital algorithms, for these AI algorithms, which can help to find who may be more likely to have cancer, and also with some medical devices. But in general, when I came to industry, I still didn't fully understand like what happens from idea, when someone has an idea, let's do an oncomarker, to when it actually comes to hospital. And I think when you look from idea to end, to the hospital, then you have kind of this map. There is not a good map. I was trying to find on Google some good representation of the phases of development. And yeah, I couldn't find good. That's why I'm still saying that quite a lot of knowledge is in-house, which you cannot find in public. But in general, we have some groups which are called early development. And early development groups, they're very similar to academia, scientific groups. Some of them more like molecular, some of them more like genetics. These are the groups who are looking for molecular targets, also for some antibodies, which may be connected to some cancers. Then we have a research and development group. This is already a bit more structured group when they have this antibody and they start with the prototype assay, and then they develop the prototypes and they do a lot of like analytical validity. So they need to understand the test really measures what it should measure, that it has a good parameters. For example, can this test measure samples which were collected and freeze like 2 years ago? Like, I don't know, in cohort studies when we freeze blood, but then we try to analyze it 5 years later, and you don't know whether your oncomarker can actually detect from the freeze sample, and also what is the stability, how long you can keep the blood samples from the patient until you analyze. So they do a lot of this analytical work and also the production and manufacturing. But then comes the clinical development. Clinical development, so I'm as a clinical development lead, I'm responsible sometimes from the beginning, sometimes we just come from the idea that we have this gap in the clinical practice that, for example, there is some treatment for liver cancer, but the treatment doesn't work 100%. So it works at 50%, 70%. And we want to understand, can we develop a test which can help identify who will respond to this treatment? And this is sometimes as clinical development, we come from the idea and then we go to early development or to research development and ask them to help us with the targets, with the molecules. Sometimes we come already when there is a prototype, and as a clinical development, we test the clinical performance. So we need to, and it depends also on the phase of research. Then we design a clinical study to support the idea. And we always think about the phases of the drug development. And I think we all heard about during this COVID, about the vaccines, that they have phase 3, phase 4 studies. But actually in biomarkers, they also have the same phases. And at every phase, it's a different design and also the different goal. So at the beginning, we just want to know how the test differentiates cancer and non-cancer patients. At next stage, we want to see how actually this helps the clinical practice. For example, if everyone now doing ultrasound for liver cancer surveillance, if we introduce this test, do we really reduce mortality? Do really people survive longer? Do really people can, I don't know, have better treatment options? So something a bit more practical, and also how it's when we do the screening, like for the whole nation, for the whole country, how does it changes from the current practice? Because it's important for every new marker is not only to be as good as the current practice, but we want to be better than current practice and have more benefits. And these are the questions which clinical development is responsible for. And then we also have medical affairs. These are people also, they are our counterparts, so they usually have quite similar expertise, but they take care of the post-market trials. So for me, my job usually is finished when the product is launched. So when the diagnostic test is developed and we launch and we now sell it. That's where the medical affairs is starting to work. And also we have a market access team who are working with more like a health economics, because also to get your diagnostic test to hospital, it's also important that it's reimbursed or it's at least in clinical protocols. And this is something they work with the different governmental agencies, with insurance companies to make sure that the test is reimbursed, because this way hospitals can more likely can take this test and also apply to their patients. And also this is something, this is at the moment my main work, and this is something I'm always now, I'm getting very angry when I looked at different promises and different news, for example, from biotech startups, or even like in academia. Usually we would stop somewhere at the, so we develop some model for some prediction model, we publish it, and that's our job is done. But actually there are many, many more steps until, and that's why these algorithms or these models most often don't use in clinical practice, because no one validates them, no one actually checks how it performs in a real practice, and also many of them are not registered or reimbursed and cannot be used as a, because even as a software is a medical device, and if it's used to diagnose patients or monitor patients, it has to be also regulated. That's why many hospitals cannot just employ these algorithms or models, because it's not allowed. And that's why I try to learn also more and work. I really like my job at the moment. That now I can see what are the steps are needed to actually bring some of the even innovative tests or even AI algorithm actually to the clinical practice. And also, like, just maybe someone is interested. Something I learned in my job now, that in the field of biomarkers, because before we always like think about the diagnosis of biomarkers, that we use some biomarkers to diagnose some iron deficiency anemia or some tumor screening, but actually quite a lot of different applications of biomarkers. Because, for example, in the field of liver cancer, we can work with biomarkers which can help to stratify the risk, to know who. So now everyone is talking about this liver fatty disease, NAFLD or MASLD, that and it also leads to liver cancer and fibrosis, but we don't screen them because we don't know. It's so many patients with this problem, but we don't know who of them will more likely to develop liver cancer, and they're not screened. And this, some of the biomarkers in development are helping with the risk stratification. Some biomarkers are helping with the screening to detect, for example, cancer earlier. And this is something I think a bit more obvious. Some of the biomarkers are diagnostic, so it help to diagnose and to make sure that this patient has this disease. But also there are a lot of biomarkers which are prognostic, and also, and some of them are for treatment response, so we can identify who will respond better to certain drugs. And also for prognosis, who will die in 5 years or 10 years. And also sometimes this is something I think when we do some research, even in academia, when we do for some risk factors, for some predictors, sometimes some of the terms are confused. But now when I'm working more closely with the diagnostic field, I can see that how they are very different. And for different purpose, they have different study design, they need different studies, and they have different level of evidence. And this is something also find very interesting now. Yeah. Just a quick about what other skills now I'm developing as a working in industry, because here everything, so medical expertise, subject matter expertise, scientific expertise, so this all came from my PhD and postdoc. But here in industry, there is another level of expertise, a lot about these product development cycles, how actually products are developed, how they're manufactured, what is the instrument or technologies are used to produce these medical devices or diagnostic tests, what kind of regulations are applied about like FDA or IVDR here in Europe, what actually their criteria to accept this kind of devices. And a lot about the strategic thinking and strategy. And this is something, for example, from my interview, they asked me, what was the most innovative paper which you read in oncology field in the last 5 years? What was the most prominent paper, like a star paper? And I didn't know, because I'm coming from rheumatology research. I spent in rheumatology like almost 6-7 years of research. Then I was on maternity leave. Of course, I didn't know what are the papers in oncology field. But I told them honestly that as a doctor, I don't feel that people are dying from cancer because there is no enough innovation. People are dying from cancer because we still, quite a lot of what we already know, we cannot apply in hospitals. And as a medical doctor, I think I see that this is the point when we can make a difference. And that was enough. I think after that question, I got the job, because this is something I think showing more as a strategic thinking. What exactly is needed at your position and at my position as a clinical development lead? I need to see where the gaps in clinical practice, which we can fill with our diagnostic products, existing diagnostic products or new diagnostic products. And I think this is quite important. And also in industry, what's important, many people ask me why there is so little early entry position in the industry. Everyone is asking already usually for 3 or 5 years of industry experience for every job posted. Because I feel, because it's all about the matrix environment and non-hierarchical structure. Because, for example, in PhD or in academia, usually your professor knows more than you do. And almost for every question, your professor, your supervisor can help you or to back you up. But in industry, actually, and we work very little with our peers. For example, in a matrix team, we have a team, I don't know, me, statistician, business person, marketing person, I don't know, from the research and development, biochemist. And it means that I interact very little with the same clinical development leads as I am, to learn from each other. So you really need to make an effort. And also usually you don't have quite small interaction also with your line manager. And your line manager is no longer like your supervisor who can back you up for everything. He tells you, it's your job, go and do it. And that's why it's important for them to bring someone who already have experience, because then when you do your day-to-day job, it's quite little room to learn. And I think that's the reason. Yes, I think that's all. That's all from me. And I wanted to also remind you that every experience counts, and sometimes you don't know which experience worked for you. Because for me, even like with that, I was writing a book, I did some online course, helped me in my day-to-day job, because we also do the courses and books in clinical development. We also educate quite a lot within Roche and also outside Roche. And also even some experiences, for example, in school, I was in a law class and I wanted to be a lawyer. And still, at the moment, I do quite a lot of reviews of legal contracts for science. And I know that some scientists say that, oh, I have nothing to do with finance, I have nothing to do with law, I'm not an attorney. But actually, when you look at the contract for research collaboration and for scientific studies, it's quite a lot of should come from scientists. And I'm very happy to review these contracts and to contribute to them. And I think some of them, all the experience also helped with that. So just to finish what I talked about today, that positions and title change, but the skills and the relationship you build are lasting. And this is important. The position, the PhD doesn't land your job, but the experience you get during a PhD and also the relationship which you build during a PhD or any other position actually helps later in your career. And also the all unique mix of talents, knowledge, experience, and passions. And I feel that my current position also uses quite a lot of different skills and knowledge which I had in my previous positions. And we all of us is a unique mix, and we need to play our strength. Believe in yourself more than anyone else, and I think this is important. And there is no universal path to success. There are different career paths and different stages of careers, different directions matter more or less. And I really hope that everyone here who listened to me today or later in recording find the career path and position which fits you, your interests, your passions, and your utilizes your potential the most. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry that it was too long today.
That's great. Great, Aliya. I know that, I mean, here in this association, we have very active people. Usually they bombard with their questions. I guess it's because also these figures are very interesting. We have a lot of questions. Some of them were pre-submitted, some of them were here in the chat. So I will quickly go through them. And then meanwhile, if someone has any question who wants to ask in person, they can raise their hand and they can turn their camera and ask directly. And I think Kalimjan wants to say something. You're muted, Kalimjan.
Yeah, first of all, Aliya, I really appreciate your presentation. Amazing presentation. One of this was on our platform here, full of treasures. And here, what's obvious, I can see you as a medical doctor, me as well, and some of our members. We're doing research not only because of the curiosity of interest, but because of empathy to patient. As you said, it's very hard to see when someone is dying and you're trying to solve this question. And now I'm really happy that how you started your pathway, and now you're helping a lot of people in this company. I think it's really great transformation, really great example from your side. And this is a full my take. And other than that, and hopefully, if you create your company, please hire us, PhD postdocs, because you're continuously learning. It's also a lesson for us, continuously upgrading your skill set. And I think everyone should learn about this. And last one, Aliya, want to ask your time. So do we have 20 minutes more? If we have 9 questions here, maybe we can go very quick according to this, who first asked in the chat box, just unmute, as Mediat said, unmute yourself. And Aliya, quick question. Do we have 20 minutes of your time?
Yes,
because we already, thank you very much.
Thank you, for your kind words. And also, sorry for overlaying. I think when you talk about the career reflections, it's never too short. But
so please, guys, please very short, because a lot of questions, and we also respect Aliya's time. And last one, so as I said, forgot to mention, Aliya has wonderful book just published last year. We can congratulate Aliya with that. And for the best question, we will select 3 best questions later and inform you. So please ask your very best question to Aliya, and we're happy to know what your thoughts. Thank you. So first, here we have Guljan. Guljan asked a question. Please, Guljan, unmute yourself, turn on your camera, and ask your question.
Sorry, I'm with children now. Okay, thank you very much, Aliya, for a wonderful presentation. My question is, since we are women, we have always some work behind the real work in research. So how do you do work-life balance? It's just general question, my curiosity. Thank you.
Yes. I'm still very happy that during my PhD, I didn't have family and kids. I think this helped me work a lot during my PhD and do so much. Because for me, family is important. And I think we all put different maybe importance and emphasis at different also stages of life to these questions. That's why now, for example, this hybrid work, I mostly work remotely. I mostly work from home. And this helps me to keep this work-life balance, that I still can pick up and drop my child to kindergarten. But it also works quite a lot for my role, that I work as a global lead. So I work with different countries. That's why sometimes I can start my work day at 6 a.m. and have a call with Japan or China. And then maybe sometimes I can take some time during the day to care for my kid, or even to go to gym and do something at home. But then in the evening, I have to connect to the calls with the US. So I think for my work and also for my stage in career now, this works perfectly with the remote work and home office. And this helps me also to take care of my family and also of myself, which is also important.
All right, thank you. As I said, we have some pre-submitted questions before the meeting, so I guess we will ask them in the end. Some people already texted here. Maybe I can read them. Otherwise, if you want to ask by yourself, just the same question, just raise your hands. I see Jangatai's question. Do you want to ask, or I can ask on your behalf?
Sure. Yeah, I can also just unmute myself. My question was like, how do you sell yourself? Because like as a PhD student, I often notice that. So okay, I attend conferences, but like the first question everyone asks is who is your supervisor, right? Not who are you, but what are you doing, but who is your supervisor? So how do you sell yourself? What does it?
Yes, your supervisor is one of the selling points always, because they help you with your networking, and it's also important from which group you're coming from. But also to have even first to answer yourself, like who are you and where you're going? What is your strength you're playing on? And as I mentioned for myself, this is always like being a medical doctor. So now I feel this is my main strength, and also being a clinical researcher, and I'm still very interested in more in the clinical research. That's why even when I was looking for jobs, I would never consider the jobs which are too fundamental, about too like far from science, from clinic. That's why even when I worked in Bristol for population genetics, which was much more basic, and this is the question I kept asking my line manager, like, so when this will like help real patients? And he was saying, oh, in 10 years, in 20 years, maybe in 40 years, we don't know, it's too early. And for me, this was already a sign that I will never do it again. For any other position which I will go for, I will not work for science which will help people in 40 years, because it's very hard for me to motivate myself. And I think this is something you can answer yourself. What is you're passionate about? Where are you heading to? And this is maybe also help with your self-presentation. And this is also a tip for everyone. When you write your CV, sometimes some people have at the beginning of your CV just 2-3 sentences, very quick sentences, who you are and what you want. And I think this is very important to write these sentences well. And maybe you will tailor it to different positions, but always, because the first sentence which shows you not only the list of your diplomas and the list of your experiences, but also like who you are and what you want. And this is, I feel, very important. I always notice also on a good LinkedIn profiles how they write it, who they are. It doesn't come very quickly, and I maybe changed my profile many times before I found like what I would like to highlight now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's great. I think just the one tip from me, I guess, maybe you also do that. The update of your CV, just like dedicate 1 day per month, so that you will not be like remembering after a year what you've done. Just quick update, maybe 28th of each month. Yeah. So there is a question. There are 2 questions from Zarina. She's asking the first one: how do you recommend choosing a PhD topic? I've been accepted into a PhD program in health data in practice, but I'm finding it challenging to decide between pursuing research in epidemiology or health economics. And the second question will be: how can I find a good supervisor, and what are the key qualities or factors should I look for when making that choice?
Yeah, I think first of all for PhDs, it's very important also like to understand what you like. And science has many faces. It's not always like working in a very like a boring environment. So yes, some PhDs involve more of the like data analysis. So you spend a lot of time with computer. Or for example, for my PhD, I spent most of my time in an ultrasound room or talking to patients. And for me, that was the best because I could practice my English. I could also keep talking to patients. And statistical analysis was kind of a bit secondary. And I think it's also important. There are a lot of qualitative, for example, work, and maybe PhD candidates who want to talk more, maybe do more interviews, have some more exciting life. They can choose this path. So I think from the beginning, you choose also not only the, for example, disease area, but also the technology. Not everyone can work in a lab. Not everyone is interested in data analysis. So I think this is the first point, to understand what you want to spend most of your time. Even like between epidemiology or health economics, it's also important which of the skills you are more interested to develop. to spend more time on it, because maybe eventually you will do both, because epidemiology and health economics may be not so far, and also the side projects, you always can have side projects and still develop the skills, but to understand what you want to spend most of your time, so you won't be bored, you won't be demotivated. And how to find a good supervisor. So for me, as I said, that I had a bit older supervisors who have maybe more importance, more network, more authority, and it was good. But also when I work with the younger ones, these are a very different kind of experience, because they can teach you. And for some of the PhD specialties and topics, you really need this hands-on experience, when someone can actually sit with you and, I don't know, teach you the code, or like teach you some nuances which maybe all the supervisors already don't know or not interested to do. So I think it's a lot depending on the topic. Yeah, most often the older and authoritative supervisors are better, but not always. Yeah.
Thank you for these life hacks. Here we are many different people. Some of them are in undergrad, some of them in PhD or masters, some of them already in the postdoc or even higher. But what is the common for all of us is the imposter syndrome. So moving that to the Aigerim's question, she is appreciating for your presentation. And the question is, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome, and how did you deal it if you did have?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think always experience. That's why for me that my supervisor was one of my fans. Even like he was always supporting me and keep telling me that be proud of what you've done. That sometimes we underestimate and sometimes what we've done, and sometimes we even forget or maybe don't value too much. It feels for us everyone is doing it. As a PhD, I'm supposed to do the statistical analysis. I'm supposed to do it, and it's not something like too much. But actually, sometimes we need to count our experiences and learnings from every project, and this helps with imposter syndrome, to really feel that it's not normal. Actually spend so much time with this, and these skills are valuable. The time which you put into it to learning is valuable, and this helps. I also attended quite a lot of different women in science societies, which also sometimes when you share that and you know that other people have similar challenges, similar thoughts, and it actually helps you to overcome together. Yeah. I think these are my main takeaways, is to really know your value and don't underestimate yourself.
Yeah, we're all at some point little diseased, and we just have to heal ourselves all the time. Thank you. The next question is from Christina. She's also thanking you for the presentation. So, Aliya, what motivated your shift from rheumatology to gastroenterology, and how did you navigate that? Thank you.
Yeah, I think for me, both, because these were two disease areas which I worked with as a physician. And for me, both of them were quite close to my heart, because these are the patients I treated, I saw, and I still remember, because I have more maybe emotional attachment than to other disease areas. That's why when we all in the hospital, we all started as physicians. And only later we started realizing, oh, actually, the last case of rheumatoid arthritis was actually quite well managed by me. That's why I would take more and more patients with rheumatic diseases. And the other doctor, she had more passion for gastroenterology. That's why we both choose the specialties. But still, we overlapped a lot, because we tried to separate patients, but also still patients will keep coming to both of us, sometimes randomly. That's why we still had this expertise. I think because I had my specialization in rheumatology, and I think at that time I enjoyed more working with that patients, because I feel more, I don't know, these patients in rheumatic disease and gastroenterology disease, usually they're quite a different attitude and have a bit different behavior. That's why I enjoyed more working with rheumatic patients, but actually also patients with gastrointestinal diseases also were interesting. And that's why later on, when I was interviewed for this position in Roche, and when they told me it's about gastric cancer, about liver cancer, I also, it was still close to my heart. And still, when now I'm selecting a new project, sometimes it's possible that you can shift to other areas, but I still select the areas which I still like. For example, I don't know, like breast cancer, cervix cancer is still much closer to me than, I don't know, maybe lung cancer or prostate. So I think we all have, I have from my personal experience as a doctor, had a bit more closer connection to these disease areas.
Yeah, that's great. In your medical career, you are shifting between different kind of areas. In my case, I just switch from right eye to left eye and go back to right eye. Speaking of switching, here is the Karina's question. Hi, Aliya. Thank you for the interesting talk. I'm wondering if you envision yourself to go back to academia at some point in your career. Do you miss any part of working in academia? Thank you.
I would consider,
yeah,
because this is also something I learned from my experience talking to different people, that there are different shifts. And even when I worked in Nottingham, there was one professor, she came back from academia or from industry. So she was a freelance scientist. And then she went to industry, and then she came back to academia and made her career in academia as a professor. And also same, I can see in industry that many professors come from academia to industry. Some of them at some point, 5 years, 10 years later, go back to academia. And I think all these shifts are possible, especially now. I think the career become much more non-linear than it used to be. And maybe at some point, I can also consider myself going back to academia. Maybe more for teaching experience, maybe, I don't know, maybe some research. Still, do you miss any part working in academia? I think in academia, what is good is that you can really dedicate yourself to one narrow focus. And I think this may be harder to do in industry because industry is still very fast paced. Things are changing quickly. Not everyone can actually enjoy it and navigate it. I like it because I work mostly from home, and having multiple projects and very dynamic and changing, this actually doesn't allow me, I don't know, to get bored anytime. That's why I like it, that I have to switch and I have to manage different tasks. Different, even studies are coming at different times. Whereas in academia, you would focus yourself on a few studies and you spend quite a lot of years until you finish it. So you much more own this experience, but also I think there are a lot of times when you still have to go through these difficult I don't know, phases, because some of the phases of trials of any study are more exciting than the others. And sometimes you get slower, sometimes something can fail, and it will be difficult to navigate. But at this stage of my career, I quite enjoy what I'm doing now, but I don't know what will happen in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, thank you. The next question is from Ayolom. She's asking about, would you agree with the belief that master's degree is better for research position industry, as PhDs are considered overqualified?
I don't know about this. I don't believe so, because, for example, it all depends on to which position you will come to and what experience will be needed for it. For example, the girl just before me, at the same position, so when she left, they hired me, and she didn't had a clinical experience. She had just, I think, some bachelor in life science, and then she had master degree. But then she went back to medical school because then she realized that she misses some expertise. She went back to medical school. But also from the colleagues, what I heard that, for example, it would be much more difficult for her, to write a research protocol or to write a paper. It will take much more time and much more effort if you don't have this experience as a PhD. That's why at this moment, in my team of clinical development leads, we all PhDs, because this scientific expertise is actually important for our job. That's why you can do, you know everything, statistics, how to design the studies, how to execute the studies, how to write it up and present. Whereas maybe with master, you don't have so much experience. But I understand that maybe for some of the positions, when you have enough understanding or maybe of some technology of some, I don't know, area, this is enough for some positions. So it all depends on where you want to work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your answer. As people who we finished PhD, we just appreciate your answer. We have two more questions. One from Alan, the other from GBEC. I think you guys, if you want to ask for yourself, you just turn on your microphone and video. Yeah. Otherwise, I can ask GBEC. Alan, do you want to ask yourself?
Yes. If it's okay, I just kick my video off. Thanks a lot for the presentation. It was really, really interesting to see your career journey. So my question is, as someone who works in a research lab, I see that a lot of the research that's being done in academic setting is really basic. And yeah, as you mentioned, that a lot of the methods or like research that's being done in either private or research labs, it never gets translated into clinical trials or treatments for patients. So in your opinion, what can be done to kind of move like the bulk of research discoveries that are being done in like traditional lab setting into the clinical trials?
Yes, I think it's a very good question. That's why I also shared my observation that many of the academic research stops a bit in the earlier stages of developing. And so from my experience, what I saw and what I really liked, for example, in UK, now they do a lot of startups, university-spun startups. So the university was actually helping to develop the skills needed for academic researchers to open a startup and bring these academic discoveries or some models to a bit more commercial development. And I recently also in Amsterdam met a team of researchers from academia who managed to do a successful startup. And we even partner as Roche with them now to help them to distribute their product. And I think this is one of the options. The second option is partnerships. And I remember also in UK, even the fellowships, there was a move from a bit more academic fellowships to academia industry partnered fellowships, when the part of the fellowship experience was part in academia, part in industry. So they also, researchers understand how the environment is in academia, how is the environment in industry, because in industry also quite a lot you can learn how to bring your product to patients and doctors. And I think this is important, either to partner or to learn from both and try to do it as a small startup. And I think this is very important. And the more also from my work, we also collaborate a lot with university researchers and university units. We know who is doing what. And sometimes when they need help, they also can approach us and tell us, we have this prototype, you have this, algorithm. We have maybe some diagnostic test, which is used for another disease, but we can actually see that it can be applied in oncology. And then we discuss what we can do. We can do a research collaboration, or we can maybe do some of the different level studies, because with industry, some studies are research collaboration where we're full partners. So we're full kind of equal. We have some studies which are more industry driven. So we put more money, but also we usually own the results. But then there are also studies where we just supply a small grant and researchers do it themselves. And we, at this model, we don't even interact, we don't influence protocol, we don't influence the results, we don't influence even the paper, whatever they found, they can write. And these are all different kind of ways of how researchers can also collaborate with industry to bring their discoveries or their learnings to clinical practice.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. I think Ramjan also has a question about the book.
Aliya, thank you. So maybe last question, so Aliya, we know you published your book, amazing. I think it's long plans that you planned from your postdoc time. So my question is, where this idea came from? And second one, what happened after publishing this book? Any new ideas, new people? Thank you.
Thank you, Kalamjan. Yes, the book idea came whenever I was working in Bristol, because I had quite a lot of time with all these X-rays, which is actually quite boring, but then it frees your mind so you can think about different ideas and develop something in your mind. And then that's why I started to write it. And this is initially I was aiming only for researchers, because I still have a big network of my colleagues in Kazakhstan who are still in touch, and they keep asking me like how to read this paper, why this study is this, about this, even like in rheumatology, some paradoxes, why some treatments are not effective in RCTs, but we still see the effect in clinical practice. So these kind of questions. And I had a lot of my own I don't know, reflections, and quite a lot also from the lectures and seminars or talks I attended during my PhD and postdoc, and I was keep collecting these stories. That's why in the book you can find quite many stories from history of medicine, and also from some papers from my research. And this is something I was collecting and I wanted to share with other doctors. But eventually when I came to publishers, they told me, like, can we make it a bit more broader and add a few more topics, so it also will be interesting to patients and to people not without medical degree. And that's how it kind of expanded the idea. That's why some of the now chapters also about psychology, why we do what we do, why even smart people can make mistakes.
Right. Yeah. So there is a question from Yespo, but he was dropped off from Nagasaki University. He asked questions, but I want to also emphasize the first question. What do you think that having many publications in reputable journals is important for one's career? And maybe Yespo will watch it, maybe the recordings. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I think publications are important, but it depends on for which career, because career can be different. If you want to stay in academia, and especially in some areas of research, publications is just the evidence that you have this skill. If I tell someone that I work with UK Biobank, I want to show them also the paper with analysis from UK Biobank. So for me, this is the evidence that I work with this environment. I have this skill. Although for some of the careers are less important, and I also had PhDs in my group who didn't publish the paper, and in the UK it's not necessary to publish paper as PhD. They were fully focusing on the research, and then once they finished the research, they moved to industry. They never needed a paper. And I think this also depends on what you want to do later on. But I still feel that in science and research is important. And also about the skills, I can see the second question about which do you think is the most important among the skills: networking, analytical ability, research, publication, and experience. I don't believe that they contribute equally, 20% each. That's why I was also showing for each of my positions and each of my career change, different skills play different roles. Most often the medical experience often plays most, but maybe it's for me because that's how I choose the positions. But other skills have different influence. Sometimes the strategic thinking is more important. I think sometimes maybe the publication is important if it's a certain method. For example, if I continued my career in population genetics, I think the publications in that area would be much more value.
Yep. We have raised hands of Alan. Alan, you can unmute yourself and please ask your question.
Thank you very much for your today's talk. I have a question related to maybe a field that is out of scope of your research experience, but like I'm doing currently I'm doing my master's in biophysics, and I'm interested in structural biology. What do you think about like structural implications of structural biology in industry, and have you experienced like in relation to your work? Is there any knowledge you have about collaborations about, for example, structural biology? Thank you.
Thank you, Arlan. Yes, this is a very exciting, I think, and quite novel area of research. I always fascinated by all these images and discoveries in that field. In my current job, I don't work very much with structural biology, but among applications. That's why in one of the slides I showed along the journey how also which departments in industry responsible for different parts of the product development. And remember, the first one was research and early development. It's called RED groups. At least that is how it's called in Roche. And these are the areas, I think, much more closer to these scientific fields, like structural biology, and many fields of molecular biology are much more closer to these first steps when you still do quite a lot of research, quite a lot of scouting for different applications.
Thank you, Aliya. And I also wanted to, Alan, do you have more questions?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. Yeah.
Okay, great. I really thank everyone who are still with us here until the end of the seminar. And I also wanted to know you, Aliya, and it is also a great way of knowing you by being moderator on your session. For that, I thank Kazakhstan Association for International Science and Technology. And I want to pass the word to Valentin for the last words. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining till Aliya already told 100 minutes, and Aliya really appreciate. I think every word we need to underline. This it's a valuable recommendation, suggestion for young researchers. And here in Kazakh International Science Technology Association, we know, Aliya, your efforts that you're doing for Kazakhstani scientists, Kazakhstani doctors. We really appreciate. One of the persons that really doing big efforts in order to improve the quality of Kazakhstani scientists and medical research clinician scientists. So here we also again thanks, Aliya. So and I hope from today's meeting we will have a lot of people learned very much helpful recommendations and somehow improve the career proof and maybe some research skill set and other things. I think everyone took very relevant information. And with that, we always striving to invite amazing speakers in order to give Kazakh talents that's studying abroad, working abroad, to get even higher, more positions, and of course will lead other people. So Aliya, with that, I really appreciate your time. We hope you see again, maybe in Kazakhstan, or if you come to Germany, Hong Kong. So yeah, and if you want to say something, please. Yeah, thank you, Aliya.
Yes, thank you so much, Kalimjad and Muhit, for kind words. Also, it was a pleasure to be here. It was a long talk. I'm really appreciate and thankful to everyone who's still on the call. Yes, thank you so much. And I wish you everyone a good luck in your careers. And I'm very also be happy and be proud to be part of your network.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Aliya. See you.